Hello and welcome to episode 158 of Controller Club, the friendly face gaming space, a podcast where three friends from three continents share in one love, and that is video games. On today's show, we will be reviewing the Nintendo Switch 2 with a very special guest, but let's get to that. My name is Kleinfeld, and alongside me today are two of my best friends in the whole wide gaming world, as well as a special edition. If you're on YouTube, you can see who's here right now. First, coming to us from across the pond, it is the digital art and daredevil himself, ready to go see How to Train Your Dragon, the Island of Berk, Tom Drew. Tom, what's going on?
Yeah, I am gonna see that movie later on. But you know what? I'm happy to just be in this moment because honestly, this whole week I've been itching to talk about the Switch 2 so much. I'm like just ecstatic. So I'm glad we're dedicating a whole thing to just like get into the nitty gritty and talk about experiences with it. It's gonna be a good show. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Next up, it is journalist extraordinaire, the Australian abroad / the Canadian in training, Lauren Rouse. Lauren, how are you? How are things and how is life?
Things are good. I was talking to Tom before, but I had a 3-movie day yesterday.
Hell
I've
yeah.
seen How to Train Your Dragon, I saw Life of Chuck, and I saw Materialist. So it was a very good, life-affirming, thought-provoking day.
Very good. Love to hear it. And joining us live from, I think, Minneapolis, Minnesota, somewhere, very special guest, executive editor at Game Informer and host of the All Things Nintendo podcast, Brian Shea. Brian, welcome back to the show. I was looking this morning. The last time we had you on was when the Switch 2 was first officially announced, and you've had some life changes since then. Some things have changed. Please let us know what is going on. How have you been over the last couple of months? What's happening in the life of Brian Shea?
Oh man, so much. Thank you so much for having me back. By the way, I love the show, so it's always fun to be invited on. Yeah, so I moved on March 24th, I think it was, and then March 25th we announced that Game Informer was back. Right now, actually, we are in the midst of relaunching our print magazine. So our print magazine, our first issue, is coming out extremely soon. And we also, just launched the subscription program. So you can actually go to GameInformer.com right now and sign up for it. It's GameInformer.com/subscribe. Easy to remember. And you'll get 10 issues a year for that. And also an online membership. The early bird pricing is going on right now. If we're just going to get plugs right out of the way early on. And then, and also we're doing a partnership with St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital where 5% of the proceeds are benefiting them and their mission. So we're trying to actively make gaming a better space through the work that we do, but also trying to, make the world a better place as well. That was something that was really important to us. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.
I was so happy to see you guys at Game Informer get back up, started up again, doing the physical magazine back in March. It was just like, it was one of the best news days. There's been like a lot of bad news in the world of gaming over the last little while, but like you guys, Giant Bomb picking up their thing and doing like going independent. It's been inspiring. It's been so much fun to see you guys back up and doing it. I just gotta ask, physical magazines coming internationally yet, or is it just digital for right now?
Just digital for right now. We're kind of just by necessity of going through this as kind of like a startup, more or less. It's funny because Game Informer's been around since 1991, but as of February of this last February, we have new ownership, and it's not like a major corporation. So it's like we have to kind of approach everything with a fresh perspective and like kind of you know a ramp up of sorts. So right now we're kind of starting with just physical subscriptions being to the United States, which I know, I think precludes everybody else on this podcast right now, unfortunately. But we've heard everybody, loud and clear that people in Canada, people in the UK and other places, they want some ability to get the physical magazine. So my personal hope and something that I'm going to continue to push for in the future is once we get this established and once we kind of have our feet under us, and like the printer has, been able to reliably get everything out to the people that we have right now, then I would hope that we'd be able to explore additional territories. Probably places like Canada would be the first and easiest place to ship to. So Klein, keep your eyes open, hopefully. But then maybe the rest of the world, we'd also find some way to get them the print magazine. the problem right now is, with the state and, instability of the U.S. economy, we'll say, and like relationships with international trade partners. Some of those things are a little volatile, we'll say, in the year 2025. So we are trying to navigate all those waters as well, and trying to make it so that, we aren't kind of overshooting our target and, getting out ahead of our skis, and then, we do something that we're not able to deliver on. So I think once we kind of get this subscription in the US like well established and running like a well-oiled machine, then we'll be able to potentially look at other territories. So digital only for now is the short answer, but my hope is that we'll be able to expand in the future.
I will say, I think that you guys have kind of buried the lead a little bit. You guys have the magazine, which is very exciting, but you also, and this is going to be really cool, Tom and Lauren, I don't know if you've seen this, they have a digital archive of every issue of Game Informer dating back to its beginning. And so you can go through and page through all these classic, like, you want to see what was going on at the launch of the Nintendo GameCube? You totally can. You want to go and see what it was like when, I don't know, whoever reviewed Batman Arkham Asylum in 2011 or whatever, you totally can go do that. Like, I think that is such a cool resource, especially in a medium that is so terrible and so awful at preservation. I think that's just the neatest thing. And anyway, you can just go look and find whatever you want and flip through pages. And I love these old video game magazines, so I've been all over it.
And it's interesting that you have you called out Batman Arkham Asylum, because that was one of the issues of Game Informer that I remember the most from when I was just a reader. I grew up reading
Same.
Game Pro, Nintendo Power, and Game Informer, and a little bit of EGM here and there. But like, I remember in college getting the Batman Arkham Asylum issue, and I think that the issue came in like spring 2008, so it was right when it was like announced, and there was like, it's coming out in 2009, and I'm like, that's practically forever from now. Like, it felt like I'm never going to play this game, because like it read like, I was reading and I was like, oh my god, this sounds like my dream superhero game. And sure enough, it was. It's one of the greatest superhero games of all time. I put it like, it's like the Arkham series and the Spider-Man games, like neck and neck. And it's like, depending on what day you ask me, I'll tell you which one is my favorite. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible. We had I think initially we had our files dating back to 2012. When we first launched our membership program on GameInformer.com, and now we partnered with the Video Game History Foundation that had a complete archive of our entire print run, which we kind of lost access to when we were shut down initially. And thankfully, now we have the complete archive, and you can just if you sign up for an account, you can access our archive at GameInformer.com.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, that's it for promoting for now, Brian. We'll get
Yeah.
into we could do more at the end. I'll ask you one last question before we get into Switch 2. Last week, obviously, if you're listening, if you're watching at home, it was Summer Games Fest. You can go back, check out our Summer Games Fest coverage, from all the live stream reactions to the episode itself. Were you at Summer Games Fest? Were you in LA, Brian? And did you get a chance to play anything exciting?
So I was not in LA, actually. This is the first ever Summer Game Fest that I've missed. And the reason for that was I was actually traveling for something else for Game Informer.
Ooh, okay.
That we will learn about very soon here. It might have to do with our first issue. So if there's a little bit of a tease there. So when we launch our first issue, you will learn why I was not at Summer Game Fest. However, I did actually fly out to LA a couple weeks prior to Summer Game Fest and met with a couple of studios, and did get my hands on some of the games that were shown at Summer Game Fest a couple weeks later, namely Shinobi Art of Vengeance, Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and Invincible Versus. So, I mean, that as a giant Invincible fan, Klein, I know that you also enjoy a good bit of superhero media. I mean, I start every Saturday morning with reading your newsletter that you put out for the Direct. So I know you're well versed in the art of the superhero entertainment genre. Invincible Versus, I was over the moon when I found out about that, and I got to visit Skybound, their LA headquarters, a few weeks ago, and interview the developers and play a few matches. That was just an incredible experience. It's from the team that does Killer Instinct, or did Killer Instinct back in like 2013. and it feels just as much of a competent fighter as that game was on Xbox One. And you can tell that these people have like just such a pedigree in the fighting game genre, and they're working with the writing team behind the Amazon Prime series. So it feels extremely authentic. There were only 4 characters in the build that I got to play, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty substantial roster at launch, and I would imagine they're going to do post-launch support. But yeah, that game feels incredible. Shinobi Art of Vengeance feels like one of the most
I'm
exciting
amped for
2D
that one.
games. Yeah, and it's beautiful. One of the most beautiful games I've seen in a long time. Um, just like it's part one of this initiative that Sega's having to revive dormant franchises. Like I was talking with the producer, and like he was like, yeah, like we slowly phased out all these old franchises, like like Crazy Taxi, like Jet Set Radio, and like Shinobi being one of them, and Streets of Rage, another one. And it's just like we realized that like we looked around and it was like, yeah, the only franchises we really have with any regularity is Sonic and Like a Dragon / Yakuza. And it's like we have so many other franchises. Like we want to be known for other things, not just those. Even though like we love those franchises, like we want to be known for like action games. We want to known for like arcade style like driving games. So like they really like drilled down into like the heart of what made Shinobi a special franchise, and worked with a studio that understands the assignment when you say, hey, we want to modernize this franchise. Because Lizard Cube it's a Parisian game development studio. They worked on Streets of Rage 4, and they also worked on Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap, so reviving 2 long dormant Sega franchises. And they did great work with both of those games. So this time it's being co-developed with Sega and Lizard Cube, and it really shows. The amount of care in that game is incredible, and it feels so good. Like the combat is so smooth, and like the producer actually described it to me as like, once you unlock all these combos that you can get, and like all these different abilities, like you can like get like this fireball that you can throw, you can summon like flaming dragons to engulf the entire screen. There's like this execution move once you stagger these enemies. He's like, it really starts feeling like a fighting game. Like the more intricate combos like really like play into that. And I started to kind of scratch the surface of that a little bit, and yeah, it immediately skyrocketed up like my list of like most anticipated games of 2025. And then Sonic Racing Crossworlds, it's going to be hard for any kart racing game in 2025 that's not called Mario Kart. But it really does make a good case for like this could be the second best kart racing game like of the year, or like just really like it's like it's really narrowing the gap, I would say. I think Mario, we'll get into Mario Kart World probably during our Switch 2 discussion, but I think Sonic Racing Crossworlds is doing enough differentiating itself from Mario Kart, while also playing into the stuff that people really loved with like Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, which I think a lot of people consider like the best non-Mario Kart kart racer of all time. And this is doing a lot of that, but also combining stuff from like if you ever played Sonic Riders back on GameCube, or if you ever played like, if you played Team Sonic Racing, which came out I think in like 2021, 2022. They're learned a lot of lessons from that. And there's also like this warping mechanic halfway through the race. These giant rings appear, and the person who's in first gets to choose which level you go to for the second lap. And like it's like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, if you ever played that on PS5, where it like instantly loads these like intricate race courses that you just do for one lap, and then you go back to the other one for the final lap. So it's a really innovative thing. There's like extreme customization for both your vehicles and your characters. So yeah, all the games that I saw were really awesome. And I there's also a Demon Slayer game that I played, but I'm not going to go too in depth in that because I'm out of my depths when it comes to talking about a lot of anime. But it just seemed like a really good arena fighter that's telling like the second half of the Demon Slayer arcs, and I had a fun time with that as well.
Excellent. I'm sure all those games will play fantastic on the new Nintendo Switch 2, which is what we're here to talk about. So I will take off my Mario cap. I will hand it over one screen on the YouTube, hand it over one voice on Spotify to Lauren Rouse, who's going to be leading our Switch 2 review conversation. Lauren, take it away. Let's get into it. The Nintendo Switch 2 is here.
Yes, very exciting. I think this is our first big console review on the podcast. We haven't really had any other big hardware launches since we started doing this, so this is very exciting for us all. I don't have a Nintendo Switch 2, so I have nothing to contribute except being moderator, but I'm very excited to hear what you guys think, because as somebody who does have the Nintendo Switch 1. I'm obviously a little bit intrigued by the Nintendo Switch 2, but I'm on the fence about getting one myself. So I feel like this is the chance for you guys to sell me on it, or to maybe not sell me on it based on your experience in the past week. But before we do that, I did want to get everyone's like brief history with the first Nintendo Switch. Like, when did you get it? What do you love about it? Maybe what was your favorite game on it? Just quickly, we'll start with you, Brian, as the guest.
Sure. So I got a Switch 1 at launch, and I'm a diehard Zelda fan, and I never really thought that Ocarina of Time could ever be topped as my favorite game of all time. And then I played Breath of the Wild, and it quickly became my favorite game of all time. So that answers that part of like, what's your favorite Switch game? And I think that the Nintendo Switch 1 kind of was like the perfect storm, because up until that point, ever since the GameCube, Nintendo had always introduced like a new gimmick, whether it was the Wii's motion controls or the Wii U's touchscreen or the 3DS's like stereoscopic 3D without glasses. The Switch's gimmick was awesome because it allowed it allowed Nintendo to refocus on their core gameplay without intrusive gimmicks, because their gimmick actually enhanced the core gameplay by allowing you to go anywhere with it. And I had like this eureka moment on my first flight after I had a Switch, and I like instinctually just brought up my 3DS and I started playing Mario Kart on it, and I was like, wait a second, I don't need to like play like a compromised version of Mario Kart, of the experience that I wanted to have. I can actually play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the go. And that was just a complete game changer from then on out. And it just felt like such a regression if I ever had to like dust off my Vita or my 3DS to play a game. Cause it's like, no, I can play a console quality game 35,000 feet in the air. And it's not like I have like my gaming laptop. It's just a handheld thing. So that was really like a paradigm shift for me. Even though I'm not the biggest handheld gamer, just that option was huge. And then you look at so many of like Nintendo's franchises on the Switch, and it's like either a highly regarded iteration of that franchise came out, or just indisputably the best. Like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I think most people would agree, up to that point, the best entry in the franchise. I think Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, I mean, I know there's always going to be fans of Melee, but like a lot of people consider that the best version. Animal Crossing New Horizons, whether you think it's the best version or not, it inarguably took that franchise to new heights. And you can go down the line. I think a lot of people consider Mario Odyssey one of the better 3D Mario games. Same for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. Nintendo really hit its stride. And then on top of that, like the era surrounding the Switch was so special for Nintendo. You had theme parks, you had Lego collaborations, you had a $1 billion+ movie that came out starring Mario. And like this was really where Nintendo started exploring and expanding its empire outside of having the third like most successful console of all time as well. So I think the Switch 1 is a special era for Nintendo, and it really delivered something incredible for me personally as well.
Absolutely. And Klein, I remember, I think when I first started following you on socials, you had your profile picture was with your Switch. So
Mhm.
you're obviously a huge fan of it, but tell me your history with it.
So I wasn't there right at launch. I was just finishing college at that time and did not have any money, so could not buy a console, but it was the first thing I bought when I got my first job after college. So like I finished broadcasting school in March and I get a job in November. And so I had a year one Switch that I still have. That's the one that I used. I never got an OLED. I never got the upgrade with the extra battery in it. So I've had this thing that sounds like it's been gasping for life for the last 3 years every time I turn it on. And I loved it. Those photos you talk about, Lauren, like I remember I was so excited when I got my Switch. I had a friend who took photos, and me and Gabby, my partner at the time, were like, we want to take nice photos. But while we are doing it, I was like, can we do like a maternity shoot with my Switch? And that's what those photos are from. And so yeah, I love the Nintendo Switch. It's gonna be hard to beat like my first Nintendo console, like GBA and GameCube, but I think the Switch, like it's getting harder and harder to argue that it's not Nintendo's best like generation. Like it is just they won. Like coming off the Wii U, where we as Wii U fans, like we had good games, but it was you were the bottom of the barrel. Like you were an afterthought to the gaming industry. And then it looked like Nintendo was on their last legs or whatever. People like they're going to be gone in however many years. I remember a big conversation being, but all the money they have saved, like they're going to be okay. and they came out and came out on top. And so loved my Nintendo Switch. For me, Tears of the Kingdom's probably my favorite game on the console. It's one of my favorite games ever. I think it's just like a religious experience playing it for the first time, like jumping off that sky island for the first time and being like, wait a second, like it's not just the sky, it's the sky, the ground, and underground. Like it just blew my mind. And it's nice to finally have a capable Nintendo console in my hand in the Switch 2, because the Switch 1 from the beginning was like, oh, this is really cool, but like it's not a PS4. It's not a PS5. It's especially not a PS5. And it's nice to get closer to that.
And also, I remember like Nintendo kept, like, to just piggyback off your Tears of the Kingdom comment, even playing Tears of the Kingdom before it came out, I remember I was like, okay, yeah, I know about the Sky Islands, and like I monitor like the trailers and everything so much, but like knew about like the surface and the Sky Islands right off the bat. But then like when you found out the depths existed, and they kept that secret until launch, and it was like, oh my god, there's an entire world under Hyrule
When
as
you
well.
can jump from the sky and go all the way through the ground into the underground with no loading at all, I was like, I'm like, it's the same thing I feel when I watch some like old Disney movies where like there's no logical reason for this. It is just magic. Like you cannot tell me whatever computing programming language you use to figure this out. No, it is like straight up magic. You guys are sorcerers, because I have no idea how this little tablet can do that.
It's true. Yeah. I heard that from many developers as well. They're like, there's no reason this very underpowered video game system that is now like at that time like 6 years old should be able to do this.
Well, someone who's also Mr. Zelda on our podcast here is Tom Drew. So do you have a different favorite game on the Switch, or what was your background with it?
I don't, because I'm also wearing a Zelda shirt. If you're watching the YouTube video, there's a Korok in my in my pocket sleeve. So like, it's got to go to Breath of the Wild. I love that game. But part of that, it's funny because like, yeah, I was a Wii U owner. I was a day one Wii U owner, and I love my Wii U, but I was sort of burned on it. I was like, oh, this could have been so great, but it was so close to being like amazing. But I had played Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, so I didn't feel like I had needed to get the Switch initially at launch, because I was like, I already have the best Zelda game of all time. At that point, I'm good. I don't need to upgrade. But Smash Ultimate changed that. That was when I jumped on board. I had to get a Switch at that point, so I got the Smash Ultimate like bundle with the cool like graphic on the dock. And yeah, I mean, it was like a game changer. Similar to what you've both said, Brian and Klein, like the Switch is just like Nintendo at its peak in terms of all of their franchises. Like Metroid's another one where like with Dread, I thought like they just brought everything they maxed it out to 11, and they really put their best foot forward. And it goes to show with the sales as well. I mean, like basically any franchise they would put on it, like it would just sell amazingly well, including Metroid, which I feel like was previously not one of their. It was like a big franchise, but not one of the kind of one that existed in the mainstream. But clearly they can make it work by doing that. But yeah, I thought the console when it first came out was just like amazing to me. Having it portably, especially like fast forwarding a lot more towards like the pandemic, like that was my like comfort. Like going through Animal Crossing, just like having that thing portably was such a savior, honestly. That I'm so grateful that I had the Switch and this huge library of games to fall back on to get through all of that. It was amazing. And like going back to like the Wii U comparisons, like the fact that so many third-party developers like decided like, yeah, we're actually going to show up for this thing, and like there is such a huge library of games on the Switch. Like I'd argue one of the best libraries you can get on a console. And now you have the Switch 2, and all of those games are still compatible. Some you can't play, like Labo VR. Sorry, you're kind of left in the dust. But most of them are like you can play still on the Switch 2, and now we're getting even more games in the future, and it's amazing. So yeah, I love my Switch 1, but it's nice to have the Switch 2 now, and yeah, I kind of talk about that even more.
So Thomas, I have a follow-up for you, and I'm sorry, Lauren, I'm not trying to commandeer the conversation. As somebody who played Breath of the Wild on Wii U, did you feel kind of? I have a coworker who is constantly like, it sucks for Wii U owners because the Switch version of Breath of the Wild exists, the Wii U version they actually made worse because they removed the second screen like map and everything, which was the original plan.
Mm,
But now if you
yeah.
play Breath of the Wild on Wii U because they didn't want the last gen version to be better, they removed that functionality so there was parity with the Switch version. Did you feel like burned by that at all?
Not really. I mean, obviously, it would have been nice to to get a little bonus for getting a bit shafted at the end of the Wii U's life cycle. But I still had an amazing time with Breath of the Wild on Wii U. I mean, I remember I got like I think 90 of the shrines on original Wii U, and then when I replayed Breath of the Wild on Switch, I went out and did everything. But
Wow.
it was still it was still an amazing experience. I think like the fact that like it was a new Zelda the game at the time, like all that build up. It was incredibly cathartic to get that. So sure, it would have been nice to get a little bit of something, but it was the Wii U. We took what we could get, to be honest. So it was kind of like, whatever.
Okay, so we have three clearly very big Switch fans on the pod today, and now we have the Switch 2, which from the outside seems to be more of like an upgrade versus a whole reinvention of the Nintendo wheel, as we've seen in some previous console generations. So that makes it quite interesting on what I'm interested to hear what you guys are loving, what you're not loving, but we'll get into your general thoughts and then we can pick up on some of the like specific selling points of the Switch. So yeah, who wants to go first on their like experience with the Switch 2 in the last week? Has it been a week that it's been
It's been a
officially been
week.
out now?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
been a
yeah.
week.
And I know, Klein, you got yours sort of midway through the week, and Tom, you've had it last week. You were talking about it. Brian, I don't know when you got yours, but yeah, take it away. Whoever wants to go first.
I can jump in quickly because I think, had the least amount of time with it compared to everybody. Mine was delayed. There was a sinkhole in the highway, and Walmart screwed me over. But we got it. It's fine. It came on Monday. And I'll just say, as I mentioned, my Switch 1 was a year one Switch, and that's the Switch I had all the way through the generation. And I felt this way coming into the Switch 2, that I would like feel like this picking up the Switch 2 for the first time. It feels like I've jumped 50 years into the future. Like you did say, Lauren, it is a bit of an upgrade compared to a full reinvention, and I'm happy about that. Nintendo can be so focused on gimmicks at times that it actually takes away from the success of the last thing. They didn't need to do anything else here. This is very much a Switch Pro, but it's the best Switch Pro I could have asked for. The screen's incredible. It feels like the first time I picked it up, it feels like a piece of technology as opposed to a toy. Nothing feels flimsy. The screen is amazing. The Joy-Cons feel like really nice and like very well built. Whereas the Switch One, I always felt like if I really wanted to, I could just like snap it over my knee. I'm loving this thing. I'll say to you, Lauren, someone who doesn't have it, I don't think you need it right now. And I think that that's okay. This launch is very much like, if you need Mario Kart, pick up a Switch 2 now. If you don't, you could probably wait, because other than Mario Kart, there isn't really a lot begging you to play it. But because Mario Kart is here and it is so good, I think that if you want another Mario Kart experience, this is the time to get one. But I've been super impressed with it. Every time I pick it up, I just can't, like, I look at the screen and I'm like, I can't believe I was playing on this tiny little thing for the last 7 years or more. 8 years.
So I've had it a bit longer than Klein. I got it on launch day, and kind of similar to my, I guess, some early kind of impressions. Last week, I'm still really enjoying the Switch 2. Kind of like how Klein mentioned. I don't think everyone needs this right now. I think because at least both of us have had, the original Switch for quite a while, this does feel like a massive jump. Playing some of these old games, which we'll talk about a bit more in depth, and seeing them run at 60
The old games are
FPS
crazy. It feels illegal.
yeah, it doesn't feel like it's some sorcery is going on behind the scenes, and to look this good and run so well. So for that, and the fact that Mario Kart, I'm having like a ton of fun with it. Those things combined, I think, makes it worth it, because there were a lot of games on Switch One that I was purposely waiting to actually play, like Pokemon Scarlet's DLC, or like Dragon Quest 11, like a big massive game. I was waiting to play that. Xenoblade Chronicles, the original one, like there were a lot of games I was waiting just for this upgrade because I knew the bump would be worth it, and so far it has been. There are obviously like some other gimmick things that we'll get into, like game chat and mouse mode, and those things are nice little bonuses as well. But I think for me as a Switch lover, this is like the perfect kind of package. Again, not I don't think this is for everyone right now. Once we get a couple more games down the road, maybe that's a different conversation. But at the moment, I'm loving the thing, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that it is a substantial upgrade over the Switch 1 in that, like, suddenly you have 4K resolution, up to 120 frames per second in your games. And by the way, playing when I was at the Switch 2 reveal event in New York back in April, I got to play Metroid Prime 4. I got to play Donkey Kong Bonanza. I got to play the new Mario Party stuff, like the new mini games, and I got to play like Civ 7 with the mouse control, and Dragon Drive, the wheelchair basketball game, and all of that stuff works like magic. Like I literally, on my way to recording this podcast, I swung by Target so I could get the camera for my Switch 2 because I don't have any accessories for it. And then I have a Pro controller being delivered to me today. And it's like I'm slowly ramping up. I already got like my micro SD express card because those file sizes are much bigger than they were on Switch 1 now, especially the third party stuff. Like Street Fighter 6 is like 52 gigs, which a couple games like that, you're going to be filling up that 256 gigabyte hard drive. But to echo Thomas, like I think Mario Kart World is like the official like killer app. But for me, like the biggest attraction right now is I really want to replay Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet because especially Scarlet and Violet, that ran like such garbage when it was on Switch 1. And I fired it up and I played like the opening hours of Scarlet and Violet. And I'm like, oh my God, if the game came out like this, people would revere this title instead of it being like a poisoned name of like, oh my God, Scarlet and Violet. No,
That's what everyone said at the time was this is a really good Pokemon game that performs like crap.
I still get people giving me crap about it because I gave it an 8.25 out of 10 because I was just like, this is a 9.25 game out of 10, but it runs so poorly that I take an entire point off of like the review score. And people are still like, oh, you're bought and paid for. I'm like, no, I think this is like, if you actually spend the whatever 40 hours or whatever I spent playing through the game, you find that like there is a lot to like about Scarlet and Violet. It's just buried under a technical disaster. Now that it's not buried under a technical disaster, I truly hope a lot of people go back and like experience this game either for the first time or they give it another shot because it is revelatory how much better that game runs. And then I just played around the Great Plateau on Breath of the Wild and I was like, my Lord, I'm going to dive back into this too, I guess.
That's good. It's like a rediscovery of. It's almost like having the Switch 1 again, but like reliving the highlight years of the last.
It's like playing what could have been
Yeah.
on the Switch 1 is really what
Yeah.
it is. It's like we
Yeah.
could have had this. Like this is what
Yeah.
this is what we were missing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into some of the like specific points of the Switch. Something I'm really curious about is just like the physical, like physically what it is, like the upgraded size, obviously, of the screen and of the Switch itself, like the weight, what it's like to hold it in handheld versus having it on screen. So have you guys been playing mostly handheld mode or have you tried docking mode? What's been like the split? And like, how do you prefer to play the Switch normally anyway? Tom, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I go a bit 50-50 because I wanted to try to see how it compared. A lot of the time I was playing Mario Kart World and I'd like either put a podcast on the TV or I'll kind of do the opposite where I'll have like the podcast on my laptop and I'm playing either way. But I can say like both feel incredible. I mean, the Joy-Cons originally have always felt quite small in my hands, so I'd like frequently be cramping up and being like, oh, this is kind of a little bit uncomfy sometimes. The Switch 2 kind of solves that because it's bigger. The Joy-Con 2s also are increased in size. I don't have those cramping problems anymore. Basically, it just feels so much more ergonomic. The weight is it's definitely heftier than the original Switch, but not by
sure.
much. I mean, it still feels pretty like perfectly portable. And yeah, I love using it in handheld. Like in terms of the like the screen looks like incredible, like compared to what, especially like again, like having just a base Switch initially, the jump is like hugely drastic. Mario Kart like runs extremely well. It looks beautiful. The colors are extremely vibrant. And you know, that game gets intense sometimes. A lot of stuff is going on, but it's still really, it still plays really well. You're able to keep track of everything and that sort of thing. The situation changes a little bit when you're playing with GameChat, which we'll get a bit more into a bit later because that reduces the size. But other than that, yeah, I love this thing portably. I love it on a big screen. Like again, like looks amazing, 60 frames, 4K, whatever. But yeah, I think it just both modes have been perfect from what I've played so far.
Yeah, I mean it's I'm extremely impressed. I forget who it said, it was either Klein or Tom said that like it feels like a much I think it was Klein. It's like a much more premium product, right? It doesn't feel like a toy anymore. It feels like yeah, this is like a high-end piece of technology. And I mean the price obviously reflects that. It's substantially more expensive than the Switch 1 ever was. Um but yeah, the screen quality. A lot of people were upset, like when they said, "Oh, it's not going to be OLED; it's going to be LCD." And you know, we got to get our hands on it, and it was like, "Oh wow, this doesn't look like an LCD like we saw on the Switch. It looks like as good, if not better, than the OLED." And like a lot of people were worried, like, "Oh, I have the Switch OLED. I'm so used to that screen, it's going to feel like a downgrade." But like we did a Q&A session with the team behind the Switch 2 while I was in New York, and we asked like, "Oh, what's like why was the decision for LCD? Like, are you worried people are going to see it as like a downgrade from the OLED?" And he's like, "On paper it might sound like a downgrade, but like this is not the LCD technology that we had when we made the Switch 1. This is 8 years of advancements that we've made in LCD technology. So when you look at it, it looks like a completely different type of technology than what you got on the Switch 1." And I think that has come to bear truth, right? Like it's come to be a thing that everybody's kind of accepted. Like, oh yeah, this is like substantially better. I don't think that like the form factor is too heavy. I think that it has a nice weight in your hands. I've heard some people say like if you're doing extended like handheld gameplay sessions, which I typically don't unless I'm like on the go somewhere. I prefer almost all of my gaming experiences to be on the TV, and I love sitting in front of a giant screen with my pro controller playing like that. But you know, if I'm flying or if I'm on a road trip or something and I fire up my Switch 2, I think it's going to be a lot more comfortable, and I don't think it's going to be too heavy over a long period of time. The one thing that I have heard from people who do play in handheld mode a lot is that the battery life is pretty subpar, which is disappointing because like if I'm hearing that like you're only getting about 2 hours of gameplay time on like something like Mario Kart World, and I'm sure it varies by title. I bet if I'm playing Balatro, I get a lot more time than if I'm playing something like Cyberpunk. But you know, my flights are usually like a minimum of 4 hours. So I'm going to have to bring like a charging cable to plug into like the little, like the back of my seat or whatever. And, yeah, so that's disappointing, but I think overall, like this is exactly what I wanted from a successor to the Switch.
Yeah, it's just interesting because they don't really, like, advertise that when they're, like, launching the console, like, "Oh, it's gonna have this much battery life," as they do with something like an iPhone or something like
Hmm.
that. So,
Yeah.
have anyone else noticed that? Is it really quite poor?
I haven't noticed it like as I've been playing too much. Will play an hour and notice like, oh yeah, a big chunk of it. Apparently, it sits at 1% for an incredibly long time. So some people are like testing the battery, it gets to 1% and it can sit at 1% for another like 90 minutes. So that adds that changes the battery life from like 2 hours to potentially 3.5, maybe closer to 4 hours. The the battery life thing though is like it's a substantially hardware improved machine, and when you improve hardware it's going to draw more power, and you have a screen like that, it's going to draw more power. That's the Steam Deck and the like ROG Ally and things like that. Like they're 2.5 hours I think battery life right now because they do have so much going on. And so this is just kind of like the standard for these kind of handhelds. It does, I think, if that is the mark with the Switch 2, I haven't pushed it that far yet. That does kind of bum me out, but I don't know. I think that that's kind of it's a trade-off at this point with like technology, battery life.
Mm-hmm. And I mean that to that point, it's almost like I've heard some people say you need to calibrate the battery, like you need to like charge it up with this one setting on and then let it go all the way down to 0, and that will calibrate the percentage so that sitting at 1% for 90 minutes might only be the first couple of times you do it. Eventually it figures out like, oh, okay, it's not actually at 1%. And maybe eventually that'll, find out like we'll find out the true answer of how long it really lasts.
Yeah, I'd say the battery life is probably the major drawback of the system. I'd recommend Nintendo Life, a YouTube channel. You should check them out. They made a video basically testing out the battery life with different games. 2.5 hours was basically the kind of median, I think, for most kind of modern games they kind of arrived at. But then you have like they tested out Super Mario World, and that went for like 6 hours. So it really does depend on the game. So I'd recommend like checking out that video and then like seeing what games are kind of ranging, and if that makes a difference to you, I think that's probably worth keeping in mind. But yeah, I think with the original Switch, I think it lasted maybe a little bit longer in some cases, but because I knew the battery life on the original Switch wasn't great, and I had an original Switch for so long, having not the best battery life for the Switch 2, at least for me, I'm not the most bummed out about. Even though it kind of sucks that Mario Kart World it like dies after 2 hours, but it's not like a deal breaker for me, at least as much as it is for maybe some other people.
Well, one thing that did change, I guess, substantially with this new Switch is the Joy-Cons. They're now like a magnetic snap instead of a slide, and they're, from what I hear, have tried to combat Joy-Con drift. And of course, there is mouse mode. I don't know if with any of the games available, if mouse mode has been something you guys have been able to try, but is that something that you've tested out?
I
Yeah,
tested it out a little bit playing Fortnite the other day,
me
Okay.
and
too.
it
Same.
worked. It works incredibly well. I was using it just on my like pant leg, and it was like it worked fine. I do recommend sliding it into. There's like these. I actually have them sitting on the table next to me. These kind of Joy-Con attachments that have kind of slippy pads on the bottom of them that you slap on to the Joy-Con. I would recommend putting those on if you're going to do mouse mode, because it does add just that bit of um well, it makes it run a little bit smoother on whatever surface you're using. But I thought it worked quite well. I don't think that I've never been a mouse player when it comes to even playing PC games unless I absolutely have to. So I don't really see it changing the way that I play games. But for some people who are like, it's the only way to play, especially like first person shooters or things like that, I can see them getting into it. Or I can totally see like now we have like Civilization was on the Switch 1, but Civ 7's coming to Switch 2. I could see like Age of Empires from Xbox or some other like RTS sort of strategy games playing a lot better that way, but it's not going to be the way that I ultimately play most of my games.
Yeah, I think that is
Yeah.
the big thing right there, is that it's going to not only allow developers to port over either better versions of their PC first titles, like, there's a version of City Skylines, for example. I love city building games, and like City Skylines is awesome. It's one of my favorite simulation games of all time. There's a Switch version, but one, you have to do like with with the controller, and two, it doesn't run very well. I think that the Switch 2 has the opportunity to allow developers to bring those games that like are best used with the mouse controllers or mouse controls, and maybe that it's so bad with gamepads they wouldn't even consider bringing it over to a console, but now they have the opportunity because you can. The way that when I played Civ 7 at the Switch 2 reveal event, the guy from Firaxis was like, yeah, you can use like the left Joy-Con like a normal Joy-Con, and like that's basically your WASD, and then you use the right Joy-Con as the mouse, and you can basically do anything that you wanted to do on the PC version on the Switch 2 version, and like access everything just as easily. And then like the same thing with like Metroid Prime 4, where it's like magic. You don't even have to go into a menu. You just like you have your two Joy-Cons, you just turn it one of them sideways, and suddenly you're in mouse mode, right? Like there's no like having to like navigate and be like, okay, yeah, switch my settings, my gameplay settings over to mouse. It's like, no, it's just instantly. And then the other thing though that is really cool about the mouse mode is it opens up the opportunity for like other game design uh tenets, right? Because like everybody on a PC has a mouse, and you can design games around that. But I would say a very, very small number of people have two mice connected to their PCs. So for a game like Dragon Drive, you can't really do that on PC because there's only one mouse. But on Switch 2, you can have the two mice going like that, and it's just a native part of the system. And that's also cool because, like, it's also motion control. In addition to the mice control to move your wheelchair, you can also raise your hands up, and your character reflects that to call for the ball, or then like, lift one hand up and shoot. And it just all is so seamless. So I think that is the most magical thing about the mouse controls, is it's going to open up a whole new design method for some of these developers.
Is it like you have to, like, is it any game you can just switch into mouse mode, or does it need to be like a compatible mouse mode game?
I think it has to have mouse mode functionality built into it, but I think most like Fortnite, it's just any game that has mouse functionality already coming into it, it picks up. Like Fortnite, it just automatically, I don't think they even had to really do an update for that. Cyberpunk, same thing. Like it's, if it had mouse functionality in it before, it'll have mouse functionality with the Switch 2. Mario Kart, you're not going to be using mouse mode in any significant way, but
Have you tried?
I haven't. So maybe I
Okay.
could. You might be able to navigate the
Maybe.
menus that way. I know you can navigate like the home screen on the Switch 2 with the
Yeah.
mouse.
Right.
But I think it opens up a whole like opportunity. Like I wouldn't be surprised if, it might sound crazy now, I wouldn't be surprised if Riot put out like League of Legends on the Switch 2 now that you can use a
Yeah.
mouse on it. But yeah, it's a cool innovation that I don't think a lot of people are going to use all that often.
Yeah, because
Yet.
similarly, I tried it in Fortnite, and like I think it felt pretty natural. Like in theory, like I think it can work very well. I will say that like using it for a while, I felt the Joy Cons were still a little bit too
They're
small,
small.
and like my hands kind of cramped after a while. Like trying to use the triggers and that sort of thing. And also like because you are also having to use some of the face buttons while you're in mouse mode. Sometimes it'd be a little bit tricky, especially if you're clicking in like the joystick. I found that kind of a little bit difficult when you're using it in mouse mode. But other than that, I think like in theory this works really well. And like the fact that, like you were saying, Brian, you can just put the Joy-Con on a side and it instantly shifts to mouse mode. I think that's like huge, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future. I don't know if they've like updated, for example, like the big one that I want is like Mario Maker functionality with this, because I think that would be amazing. I don't know if they've updated Mario Maker 2 yet,
I don't
but if
think
they
they
make Mario
have.
Maker 3, okay.
But yeah, I
But
mean
yeah, I think that's tailor made for this.
that's the big thing with the Mario Maker 2. Like Mario Maker 1 was like the best use case for the Wii U gamepad. And then they did Mario Maker 2, which by every measure is a better game, but it wasn't as successful because there was no easy way to like access all of the options with your just the controller. Like you can play it with touchscreen in handheld mode, but if you wanted to play it in TV mode, you had to like use like the radial menu, which just was not as intuitive as just using the Wii U gamepad with like the stylus. I think the Wii U gamepad and the stylus was like kind of clunky. So to the fact that like there was a better implementation of that tells me that if they did either a Mario Maker 2 Deluxe or a Mario Maker 3, I think it would be fantastic, and it would be like a great use case for the mouse mode.
I'm sure that Nintendo is probably working on something right now that's some kind of mouse Joy-Con attachment that will like
I was about to
combat
say
that
there's definitely an
cramping.
accessory coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
it's
even
just
seen
built
people
for
on
that.
Reddit already with like 3D print designs for like a
Right.
mouse thing that you can slot your Joy-Con into.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I bet that's on the way. Before we go on to games, I just wanted to ask if anybody had like, because there'll be things that they will promote in, the trailers for the Switch 2 and the box and whatever, but having actually like got hands-on with it and played with it, are there any like maybe small changes or upgrades that you found that maybe they didn't like advertise as broadly?
I will say, and I think they did advertise it a little bit, but I'm super impressed by the kickstand on this thing. It sounds like a really small thing, but coming off of the weird little easel kickstand that you had on the Switch 1 that felt like I could just snap it off with not that much force, this is like, it feels hefty and it feels substantial. When I stand the Switch up, on it, I don't feel like I am at risk of it breaking off in any way or failing. So I've been very impressed by it. That's probably like the only like really small thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like the biggest thing for me outside of like, just the added oomph that you get with like playing your old games. I think Tom brought up the Joy-Cons just feel so much better in your hands. Like I used to hate using like the Joy-Con grip and like playing those. Like it was either like I play in handheld mode or I play with a pro controller. Like the Joy-Con grip was like the last resort. Now I don't mind using the Joy-Con grip. I think it's that much of an improvement that it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to immediately throw this in a drawer, never to be used again. It's like, no, I'll still prefer the Pro controller because I think that the new Pro controller is excellent. But at the same time, it's not like the end of the world if like that's maybe if I go to fire it up and the battery's dead or something like that. Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me.
Yeah, just jumping off of that, like very quickly, like it's not really like a huge feature of the Switch 2 necessarily, but the fact that you can play with like old Joy-Cons and especially the like Switch Pro controller, like I love my Switch Pro controller. It's like it's one of my favorite controls, just how it feels. So I haven't upgraded to the Switch 2 one just yet, but being able to play with that because it is so comfortable with the Switch 2 is just it's great. I'm glad they have that compatibility still going forward.
Nice. All right, let's talk about games. I'm pretty sure Mario Kart World's probably the big one that you've all been playing. How is that going?
It's intense. It's crazy. They upped the, for lack of a better term, Mario Party-ification of Mario Kart here, just going from the 12 racers to 24 racers. I feel like this is a more like anyone can win at any moment kind of Mario Kart game, whereas Mario Kart 8, if you got really good at those mechanics, you could usually just like get ahead and stay ahead. That's not the case in this game, which is interesting to me because all the added moves like the wall rides and the grinds and the charge jump are very like they're upping the skill ceiling. So these two things kind of feel like almost like they're butting heads a little bit, but I'm really enjoying it. I think that it's probably Nintendo's best soundtrack they've ever done.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
incredible.
the vast number of amazing tracks of music in here is absolutely insane. But I think that Mario Kart World, I still need more time with it to really like render a verdict of where it stands in my Mario Kart rankings. I think it's a very, very strong launch title. I think it's a great idea that they did this right at launch because we will have new Mario Kart, I think, all the way through this thing's life. We are going to get DLC and DLC and DLC. They haven't said anything that they haven't confirmed that, but I assume that's going to be the case. But I'm loving it so far. Played some with Tom the other day. It's great. I do have a couple little gripes. Like, why can't I? Nintendo, you did so many great things with like online experience and this and that. I can't join a lobby with my friends to play online. Like Tom and I can go and play Mario Kart Online together against a bunch of CPUs, but the two of us can't us to go and play other random people around the world unless we like open a room and share a code from that room to people we want to come play with us. It's just like little things like that where I'm like, you're so close. Like you are so close to Nintendo. I can play online here. There's no dropped connections. There's no real lag. It's actually quite a great online experience, but I can't do what I've been doing in like Call of Duty since 2006, maybe like 2007, where it's like I join up with a friend and the two of us go and join lobbies with randoms.
Yeah, it's little things like that that make the online experience kind of like why is it like this? But
It's
you know,
so
maybe that's
close.
inspiration for next live stream. Like maybe we'll open up a room and like, hey guys, come play with us or something like that. But no, in terms of Mario Kart World in general, I adore this. I think it's so good. Kind of like what Klein was touching on. Like I think this game exists as like two opposites of each other because you have one mode which is incredibly chill. You're just kind of like driving around the world in the open world, doing little challenges. And like I said, I'll just like drive around this kind of massive open world that they've created for this game, put on a podcast, do little missions, get costumes, all this sort of stuff. And I really love that. My favorite thing previously like would be like booting up Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man 2, just swinging around and then having some music on, having a podcast on. And this is kind of a similar experience where it's like you're just you and your car and you just drive and you have a good time. But then again, like on the opposite scale of that, the actual racing of this is so intense. If you get hit, you are punished hard. Like
It's
it is
over.
not forgiving at all. It's one of the most like difficult Mario Karts I think I've ever played. And I love that. I love that there's like so much more going on. It's so chaotic. And I think that extends to like, what my favorite mode in this Knockout Tour. I think Knockout Tour is such a great addition to this. I was playing online last night and I could not stop playing it. I was getting crushed like consistently. I would basically get, obviously they've added like so you can play 24 races. I was getting bottom 16 like basically 90% of my races, but it was so fun, that thrill of like, I just almost eked out and got through that barrier. I won once out of my entire play session, out of maybe like 15 or 20 games. But that one win felt incredible. Like it felt like nothing else. So Knockout Tour, just having to do this like endurance thing of like one course to another, I think is amazing. Like I think that they nailed it when they added that mode into this game.
Yeah, I think that the courses may be the best we've ever had in a Mario Kart game, and I agree with you, Klein. The soundtrack is one of the better soundtracks I think I've ever heard. And like I post this on my Blue Sky where it was like for some reason I'm just like listening to this music is getting me emotional sometimes. 'Cause it's like, oh my god, these are such beautiful rearrangements of songs that I grew up with. It's like you're playing and suddenly like, a rearrangement of like a song from Yoshi's Island comes on. You're like, it like hits you right in the heart. You're like, oh my god, this song. And it's like they're so well composed and so well arranged that like I don't know. There's something that, like, when combined with, like, just I was watching Waluigi drive around dressed as a vampire in the middle of the desert, and I'm, like, starting to feel like I'm swelling up. I'm like, "Oh my god," and it's like, why am I almost tearing up? Because it's because of the music. The music just feels, like, so sentimental and such, like, a love letter to, like, the last 40 years of Mario, and they did such a great job with that. But yeah, the only thing I have the online stuff could always be better on Nintendo's side. They're slowly but surely catching up to where everybody else was 15 years ago. But like with the open world, I think that is a little bit, I'm not going to say bad, I'm going to say underwhelming.
It feels empty. Like there isn't. I don't know if I was expecting Forza Horizon Mario Kart, but like I think that's the dream. But it's even less than that. Like it's just
Mhm.
it's barren. So I don't think I'll ever really explore the open world on my own unless I have just like a couple of minutes here and there because it is
Yeah.
so empty
And some of the challenges are really fun. Like some of like the P-switch
and
challenges.
really hard.
And really hard. Some of them are
Yeah.
very difficult, but like then I get it. I'm like, yes, so excited. And then I'm like, all right, I got like another sticker for the side of my cart that I'm never going to use. So that's kind of frustrating. The only thing that I really enjoy unlocking is the different costumes.
Some of them are amazing. Like I'm so impressed with the like level of detail that they've, like, especially like some of the ideas they have. Like you mentioned the vampire one, but Wario's also got some crazy ones. There's also one with Bowser, and he's got like engines coming out of his shell. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. But the one thing with the costumes is I wish there was more like consistency in terms of how like how many other characters had. Like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser. They have like, I don't know, like 10 or so maybe. But then you'll have like Toad will have like 4 or 5, and then other characters will have like maybe one extra costume. I wish there was a bit more consistency in terms of like I want the dolphin to have a little hat. Just give the dolphin a hat.
Yeah,
That's
all
all
the
I'm asking for.
creatures don't have any. That's the one of my biggest gripes is all the Nintendo main characters you can get costumes for, but all of these like Mario creatures, like cow
Cow
or
doesn't have
dolphin.
costumes?
Cow, no, they don't have any
He does.
costumes.
Yeah,
I thought
they
Cal
don't have.
had a
Unbelievable.
diner waitress
Okay, maybe cow
costume.
has one,
Oh,
but like
really?
most of them have nothing. Like the crab you can unlock has nothing. The little fish, the dolphin, they are pretty like it's very much leaning on the if you are a main Mario cast member, you get alternate costumes.
Oh, that's going to change very quickly with the love for Cow.
People
I'm
love
Yeah,
cow.
I'm
I
sure
was in
they'll
a
add.
lobby the other day and there was like 9 cows.
I've heard that is the case. No, there is no cow costume. I'm
Yeah.
looking at a spreadsheet that somebody posted on Reddit of all
I
the
do
unlockable costumes.
I don't know if I like it or not, but like Nintendo, because this rollout has been so weird and they didn't give press any advanced hardware, game copies, anything, it does feel very much like a time gone by where a game like this comes out and people are still like figuring things out. Like
Mm.
there's guides being put up of every character you can unlock, but most of them have a little disclaimer at the bottom being like, we still don't know. Like we this is what we think, but we still aren't 100% sure. People are still not sure how to unlock mirror mode. You have to do this and this, or you have to do this, and like it is kind of fun, but it is also like Nintendo, like what's going on? Like why did the press not get copies of this weeks ago?
I think it's because they're very, very, very concerned about leaks.
Yeah,
Like there's
that's
always
exactly what it is.
without fail, somebody always gets one of their games. Like they go to like their local spot and they break street date, and somebody's playing their game like 5 days before it's out, and Nintendo hates that. So what they did with this is they had it so that you needed to have a day one patch in order for it
Yep.
to work. That they didn't release until midday June 4th, so like 12 hours before the Switch hit store shelves. So like there were people who did get their hands on it like June 1st, and all they could do was the boot screen, and that was it.
They also didn't need it. I mean, we did get like 3 days into its life that it sold 3.5 million units, the console so far, which is the highest selling console launch of all time. So like I do think Nintendo is, especially with like their whole Nintendo Today strategy and things like that, like they are more and more going, we don't really need you influencers, you press. Like we can kind of do it on our own, which is frustrating, but whatever.
Klein and Tom, you said you played some Mario Kart together. Did you use the game chat function?
We have used GameChat, and this is one of my biggest, most impressive points of the Nintendo Switch 2 experience that I like was not expecting. I can't believe how well this works. And like I had my Switch, which the microphone is on the Switch 2 console, on the other side of the room with a fan going and air conditioning. And you could like Tom and I were talking as if I was like sitting next to him. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It's the noise cancellation is unbelievable. Like I did a game chat session with my coworker, and we were just playing Mario Kart like in the free room, and he was like, "Oh, I want to test out like because he was doing the console review for Game Informer, and he was like, I want to test out how good this is." So he had an inflatable air mattress that he inflated while we were playing. I heard the motor, and if you have ever been on an inflatable air mattress, you know how loud those things are. It was sitting right next to him, and he turned it on. I heard it like for like maybe 1 second, and then it was dead silent. And even when he talked, I couldn't hear it. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like he was like, "I can't hear you very well," but that's just because like there's sound in this. There's nothing the Switch can do about that. But like I could hear him crystal clear. There was no like background noise even when he was talking. Like it was very impressive.
Yeah, they've done the audio wizards have done crazy stuff with that. I don't know how they achieved it.
And you don't need any like extra microphone or headphone attachments to do this.
Nope.
And not only that, but my Switch 2 is behind my TV.
Yeah.
So I was talking through my TV, and he could still hear me just fine.
Mine is if you're watching YouTube, mine is in that little like slotted drawer kind of right under my hand. Like it was hidden away and you could still hear me. It's incredible. I think it's all NVIDIA technology that they have that you can use on PCs right now, but it is just like I haven't used it and it was incredible. I do think that game chat, like when you actually get into it, and I think Tom, you have the same issue, the default screen view is silly. It's I'll say stupid. It shrinks the game screen down to about half the size of the screen, and then it has your little like zoom squares along the bottom. And Tom and I played for about an hour like that, and we were like, this is dumb. I was playing on my TV, Tom had it in handheld, so but it shrank down on his handheld even. And then I went into the settings and it's like, oh, there's just a full screen option, or there's an option to make the screen bigger and the little zoom squares smaller. And it's like, why wasn't the middle one or something like the default? Because right away without it, it's not quickly apparent that you can do that. And so when you get in there, you're like, why? Like Tom and I are playing Soul Calibur 2, having so much fun playing from across the world. And like, I think that was super cool, being able to play like a GameCube game I haven't done any of the Nintendo Classic stuff online before, but it worked really well playing a GameCube game with Tom. But on this tiny, like half the screen size on my like 55-inch TV, I'm like, this is stupid. But you can adjust the setting. But it's just a Nintendo. It's one of those weird Nintendo decisions where they're just like, this is the way it should be, and you just have to.
Well, that was the thing. Like, because especially on handheld, like it is tiny. Like I didn't like compare it, but I'm pretty sure like the screen size that they reduced it to is smaller than the original Switch. So you're kind of, I was kind of squinting like sometimes when I was playing Sonic, I'm like, why isn't this combo working? Like, what is happening? But no, in terms of like actual game chat, I think like you guys have both said, like I think it works really well. I had the I caved and bought the
Tom had the
Piranha
camera
Plant
on.
camera.
Oh, you did?
So I put so wait, is it? I got it right here. If you're watching the YouTube version,
Oh, it's so
there's my
cute.
little Piranha Plant guy. So you can like detach it. It's like USB-C, so you can put it on the top of the Switch. It's
Oh, that's cool.
look, I will. It is a cool little device. I will say the camera quality
Is
not
awful.
great. It's not the best.
It made Tom so incredibly yellow. Like
for some
the
reason.
whole scene looked like he'd put like a clear piece of yellow paper over top of the
Yeah.
the camera.
I remember everybody was
I was
so
in
excited when they
sepia
announced that one. And then it came out that I guess it's like a 480p camera. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh
that didn't
no.
surprise me at all.
And then I was
Yeah,
going to get that one too. And I saw that and I was like, maybe I'll just go with the official one.
It is kind of fun to be
Yeah.
playing these games though, and like in Soul Calibur, you just have the little square down at the bottom. But like we're playing Mario Kart, and as Tom drives past me, above his racer is his silly little face, just in the camera, smiling at me as he passes me.
And if he gets hit, he'll spin.
Yeah, his head spins
Oh,
when he
that's
gets hit by a shell.
And then Mario Party
Yeah, it's so
Jamboree is also going to be doing some cool stuff with it, with
Yeah.
their stuff. And like, it works like a miracle. Like I played some of it at the Switch reveal and it was just like there were one camera and 4 people were standing next to each other to play these Mario Party games. And it isolated each one of us and like superimposed us into the scene. So like, it would be like Bowser's like hosting a game show and he's like out up on stage. And then he points out, he's like, I'm looking for contestants. And it's funny because you see like Koopa Troopas and Goombas and everything in the crowd. And then you're just standing out there and like with them, like, because it takes like your full body shot and puts you in the crowd with all those characters. And then like the games are also like, all right, you got to hit this block above your head. And it really is impressive, like the technology that is at play with both the speaker and the camera.
That's definitely a pandemic influence, isn't it? Like after seeing everyone
Totally.
having that desire to play
Nintendo
together in the
discovered, wait,
pandemic.
people want to play with their friends and see their face. They discovered Discord for the first time in 2020, and we're like, what is this?
Yeah. Klein, I know you'll never forgive us if we don't talk about the GameCube Online, because this was your you lost your mind when this was announced. So have you been digging into that at all?
I have. Tom and we played Soul Calibur 2, which was so much fun. That's a GameCube game that I don't have a ton of experience with and have heard like it's one of the greatest 3D fighters of all time. And it rocks. Like it's so much fun. Tom and I were having like, it felt like it had like sleepover energy. Tom and I were playing. It was like, I felt like going back to the day of sitting in my parents' basement playing Mario Kart with my friends. And like, that was so much fun. I haven't dove in as much as I wanted to with the GameCube stuff, just because everything else on the Switch 2 for me has been the biggest thing, and we can almost transition here into it. Like the biggest win for me software wise on the Switch 2 is Switch 1 games, and I've been like playing more Switch 1 than I have been playing Switch 2 stuff. But the GameCube stuff I will get to. I'm very excited. I'm gonna play Wind Waker. I'm gonna play more Soul Calibur, and I want to see. Right now there's only 3 games, so it is very like we're very thin right now. But yeah.
But they've announced a lot of games.
I
Like
know.
there's Super Mario Strikers, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Luigi's
Colosseum.
Mansion. Yeah, Colosseum is coming. That's super fun. So yeah, they have plans to continue expanding it the way they have with N64, SNES, NES, Genesis, Game Boy.
Speaking of Soul Calibur 2, just quickly, like we were playing online. There was a little bit of latency, but like it wasn't too bad, honestly. Like we rag on Nintendo's online services like a lot, but for this one, like it ran really well, and it just played.
This gets me excited
like
to see what a Switch 2 Smash game would look like online.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got to think that that's coming this generation. For
Even
sure.
if it's Smash Brothers Ultimate
Deluxe.
Ultimate or Deluxe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think that we have to get something, because this online infrastructure, if it is working this way and working this well, being able to hop into lobbies and play people and Smash online would be like, it's the dream. It's what people have been trying to do through means on their computers for years. Like, it's Nintendo hasn't given it to us, so people have had to like take it into their own hands. But being able to do it on a Switch natively would be the dream.
All right, we'll get to kind of wrapping up the conversation here, but I do want to ask, because I feel like one big barrier for entry with the Switch 2, for a lot of people, for me, is the price. Like, it's significantly more expensive than the previous Switch. It's up there with like PS5, Xbox levels of price. Do you think that this is worth the price, given everything that you've enjoyed about the Switch and some of the drawbacks? Like, is it living up to the dollar amount?
I think so. I mean, and the thing that the way I always justify it, outside of like, just professional reasons, is that when you buy a Nintendo console, you buy the only way that you can experience the games of the greatest developer to ever exist. Like, you can't play a Zelda game or a Mario game or Pokemon really anywhere else. And so when you drop that money, yes, you still have to buy the games at, anywhere between $60 and $80 a pop now. And but it is really that gateway to being able to experience those things. And the upgrade that they've provided in the technology, I think, has made it even more justifiable now that I've spent, several hours upon several hours with the hardware and the technology and everything. It's really an impressive upgrade, even if it does look more iterative on the surface.
Yeah, I think price wise, I'm gonna come back to what I said in the intro. I think if you want to play, if Mario Kart is your game, if that's the game that you've been waiting for since Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out on the Switch, I think it's totally worth the price. The hardware itself for me is so impressive that I do think that it justifies the cost. But if you aren't into Mario Kart, there's nothing for you to play here right now, really. I mean, you can play Cyberpunk, but you can play a better version of Cyberpunk on your PS5 or your Xbox. If this is the only console, if you're just a single Switch family and you want to upgrade to something, sure, go pick up a Switch 2. There will be games for you there. There'll be Hitman, there's Cyberpunk, things like that. But like right now, for me, the only killer Switch 2 exclusive game is Mario Kart. And if you're not into Mario Kart, I don't think it's going to be worth the price of admission right now. Maybe Christmas time, come around holiday season, sure, it might be. We have Kirby at that point, maybe Donkey Kong. Maybe
Pokemon
we've
Legends
seen trailers
EA.
of a Mario game on the horizon or something. I don't know. Then it might be worth your time. But like right now, like for you, Lauren, no, this isn't worth the price of admission right now, because I don't think you're going to play it.
Yeah, I think in terms of the package you get, I think it does justify its price point just for the fact that you can obviously going to be able to play all these Nintendo games that are going to come out. But the fact that you can also now play like your Cyberpunk, Street Fighter, and sure, they're not. If you look at the like pixel by pixel, they might not come up to parity, but they're pretty damn close. So if you pick up a Switch 2, you'll be able to have these experiences that other consoles like PS5 or Xbox Series on a portable device, and I think that justifies it. And I think it is worth it from that point of view. If you're looking at Mario Kart World being like $80, I think that's another conversation you can have. And I also think it depends on the person. The time investment that you might put into Mario Kart, you could quote unquote justify like, okay, the $80, it makes sense in some way. Do I think it sets a good precedent? Not necessarily, maybe, but I think for me at least, well, I got the bundle, so it was cheaper technically. But I think
Get the
for
bundle.
me,
If you want it right
yeah,
now and you want
if you
Mario,
want,
get the bundle. You will save money doing that.
yeah, absolutely. But I think for the package that you get, I do think it's worth it. And yeah, I do think it justifies it with everything here. But yeah, like Klein was kind of alluding to, unless you want to play Welcome Tour or you want to play Mario Kart World, there's not like a killer app.
Or Breath of the
Here
Wild
for
in
you.
60 frames per second, which I think is like that. I think we've said it a couple times. The Switch 1 upgrades here, even the ones that they didn't talk about, like Super Mario Odyssey, just has a free patch that makes the game run so much better. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has a free patch that makes the game run so much better. So if you are sitting there with the Switch 1 going, man, I've really wanted to play Pokemon, but haven't, that's honestly where I'm almost at with like this console. I didn't play Dread. I didn't play Pokemon Scarlet or Violet. I might, in the time before Donkey Kong, in the time before this fall, that I might actually spend my time on my Switch 2 playing Switch 1 games better than they could have been played before.
I think even backward compatibility is a big selling point of this console too, that they didn't suddenly be like, oh, you can't, well, obviously you can't play Switch 2 games, new ones on your Switch 1, but the other way around, to be able to play the back catalog of Switch games is still a selling point in this day and age, where they could have easily not made that a feature. So I feel like my expectations have been successfully set based on what all of you have said. And I think when the time comes, I will be buying a Nintendo Switch 2 when there is something there for me. So this has
Animal
been a
Crossing.
very well.
When there is
100%.
something.
Basically, Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
Call it what it is,
Animal
Lauren.
Crossing. Oh yeah, let's be real. But before we finish up, what would you kind of like grade the Switch 2 and its launch at this point? Like if you were going to give it out of 5 stars or give it a letter grade, how are we feeling?
I think it's a solid 4 stars or like a B plus. I think
That's
that for
exactly
me,
what I was
who really
Yeah.
loves Mario Kart, I might maybe even raise that a little bit. But for the general consumer, I think it is a B. I think that it may have been, if the rumors are true and dev kits didn't get out there until like right around launch, I think that's a major misstep from Nintendo. I don't think it's ultimately going to matter because they are selling these things faster than they can make them. Although there's a lot of stock. If you want a Switch 2, you can pretty much get a Switch 2 right now. But yeah, I think it's like a B plus, 4 stars. It's great, but not like incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. Like a B plus. I look at the Switch 1, and I think that's like an A launch because you
Well,
had
when you
Breath of
launch
the
one of the
Wild.
best games of all time,
Yeah,
it's
because you
Yeah.
start
it
with Breath of the
helps.
Wild. A month later, you had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I think like 2 months later, you had Splatoon 2, and then like Mario Odyssey a few months later. Like that is an A launch. Like that's one of the greatest years a video game platform holder has ever had. But yeah, this is a B plus, maybe B at the lowest, depending on your love for Mario Kart. But like we have a lot of great games also on the horizon, probably a lot of stuff we don't even know about, because I'm predicting that end of this month, beginning of next month, we're going to have another Nintendo Direct, and that is going to kind of fill out the holiday season and first part of next year, and we're going to have probably a lot more games to put on our calendars. So yeah, we'll know for sure how good this first year is going to be probably within the next 30 days.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you guys. Like, I think a 4 is fair. Like a B minus, B plus is probably where I'd go. Two, and yeah, like touching on that, like for some reason Nintendo was like, "Hey, a new Splatoon spin-off game is coming." So like they have these games like lined up, that we don't even know about, and I'm sure they're gonna just shadow drop them, or we're gonna get a direct hopefully, very soon. So there'll be a lot more to look forward to. I think it is the case of like, I'm really happy with the Switch right now. Obviously, Mario Kart World, like, it gels well for me. And, like, testimony for, like, a lot of my flatmates and friends who I invited around, they all loved playing Mario Kart World too. But I think, like, one extra, like, really cool launch title, or, like, something very close to launch. I know we're getting Donkey Kong, which I'm really excited for. But I don't know if, like, the general consumer, if it was a Mario game, like in like a Mario Odyssey 2, I think maybe there'd be a bit more of a, like a fanfare. But because the launch lineup, or the launch year throughout the rest of this year, isn't necessarily as strong as it was for the Switch, it kind of brings it down a little bit. But having said that, still love the thing. Still very excited for everything on the horizon. Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing your thoughts. I'm looking forward to chatting more about all of the Switch 2 developments we have in the coming generation. But Klein, I'll pass back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for leading that, Lauren. That's basically going to do it for this episode of Controller Club. We'll talk about what we've been playing and do kind of a deeper dive on that next week when we get back to our post-Summer Games Fest, post-Nintendo Switch 2 review. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian. It's been a pleasure having you on. Where can people find you and check out all the incredible work that you're doing at Game Informer and beyond?
Yeah, so you can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Brian P. Shea. That's Shea. You can find my work at GameInformer.com and in Game Informer magazine, where you can subscribe, GameInformer.com/subscribe. And then you can find my podcast, All Things Nintendo, on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. The video version is on YouTube and Spotify. Everything else is audio only. So go check me out if you want to hear me rant all the time about Nintendo, because boy, oh boy, is there a lot to talk about right now.
Yeah, we are at the start of a new generation. The potential, the horizon is infinite. It's an exciting time. I love anytime we get a new console launch. As always, you can follow the show online. We are at Controller Club Pod, Instagram and Blue Sky, at Controller_Club on Twitter, and at Controller.Club on TikTok. That is where you can chime in to our New Game Plus Video Game Book Club Game of the Month. For the month of June, we are playing Sly 2 Band of Thieves, one of Lauren Rouse's favorite games of all time. We'll be talking about that in a couple weeks here. Tom, where can people keep up with you? And do you have anything exciting you want to promote?
Yeah, you can find me at Tom Gerard, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, basically everywhere on the internet. Yeah, not got much to promote. I've just been posting like screenshots from Switch 2, playing Mario Kart World, clips from messing around again in Tears of the Kingdom, blowing myself up because I'm an idiot. So if you want to see all of that goodness, Tom Gerard, you'll find it there.
Lauren, where can people keep up with you? And do you have anything exciting going on in your life?
You can follow me at lrouse19 on Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok. I do actually have work to promote for once. It's been a while, but I did an interview with Letterboxd for Life of Chuck. It was with Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel. I got to sit down with them here in Vancouver and talk to them about all the movies that they love, and it was a really great conversation. So that's over on Letterboxd, YouTube, and socials.
Awesome. You can keep up with me everywhere. I'm at the Kleinfelt, TheKleinFelt. That's going to wrap up this episode of Controller Club. As always, thank you so much for listening. Now, let's get gaming.